One of the things I get asked a lot is feeder choice, and it's really important, to be honest with you. Anybody that knows me knows I love an open-ended feeder like that. Oh, hey, oh, better get that fish first. There you go. That was a good timing, wasn't it? But that tells you as well, even though we're going to talk about to bream this as well, tells you one of two things. I've just had a cast on a worm and caught a roach, put 2 maggots back on and it's gone straight round. So that tells me, quite simply, the fish want maggots, which is pretty straightforward to me at the moment. Quick bite, dead simple. But anybody that knows me knows I love open-ended feeders more than anything. And when I can use them, I use them. For me, it just disperses the bait and the ground bait a lot easier. But they're not always the best when you're casting a long way and you want bullet feeders. And it just makes everything easier. It's a little bit like an open feeder but with a bullet on the bottom. Now what we've done at Nitro, we've developed some bullet feeders. Oh, it's a big fish, this one. We've developed some bullet feeders that are a little bit different than most bullet feeders, which when I get this out I'm going to go through. Oh, look at that, that's a beauty. That's 5 pound of that. And that was first cast back after trying that worm. Ben's getting excited, look. And I put 2 maggots straight back on, which tells me a couple of things. One, they like the ground bait, but they love the pinkies and the maggot. Oh, that's a big fish, that. That's a 5 pound plus fish, that. Look at that. Look at that, Benny. What do you think to that one, mate? Hey, look at that. You can see maggots in thing. Just take your time. Oh, that's a lovely fish, that one. Look at that. Woohoo! Get in there. That's a proper one, that. Oh, that's a proper Southfield special. That can hardly lift it up. Look at that beauty. Nice. Right into scissors, that one. Into that then, eh? Look at that. It's a proper one, that, isn't it? Beautiful, that. I'm ready to that, Ben. Is that alright for you? So, you can see that, so when we're fishing at distance, and life's a lot easier, then just use that bullet feeder. All the weight forward like that, you can see all the weight's on the thing. What happens is it goes through the air like that, goes to the bottom and the ground bait comes out. There's 2 special things about this. One, that's non-toxic, the weight. It's all non-toxic, there's no lead involved whatsoever. And you might say, yeah, it's a little bit bigger, but there's some countries now banning lead on feeders, and they will do, I think, eventually in England. But the main point of this feeder, this bullet feeder, is this. You can put the fingers round it between the weight and the feeder and fill it up nice and simple, so I can scoop it into the ground bait nice and simple, and you can see now it's not being forced out of the bottom, and it's nice and simple and everything's in that perfect. But most of the time, especially when I'm fishing up to 30 metres, 35 metres, I prefer these open feeders. And we've designed these open feeders so the weight forward, you can see by the taper of the weight, it's all non-toxic again, it's all weight forward. So because all the weight, most of the weight is distributed near the open part, when it goes through the water it goes straight to the bottom, and then it lies flat on the bottom and the ground bait comes out of both. So I use both and I prefer both, but for distance you want a bullet feeder. For shorter distances I prefer that. It's just about the distance that you're going to be fishing. Right, let's get another one. You can see I've got my bullet feeder on. And all I'm going to do now, I'm going to put 2 fresh dead maggots on. I'm just going to hook them nicely. I've got a size 16 on. And I'm just going to hook them opposite way to each other, like that. And then in my ground bait, all I'm going to do, I'm going to put a few pinkies. I'm going to start putting a few more maggots in, because it's pretty obvious to me the fish are wanting the maggots, and I'm going to cut down on the amount of worm that I'm putting in. I'm going to put a really tiny bit, like a proper little blob. One of the things is, I still think that we'll catch some fish on worm, but the fact I'm catching quicker on the maggot, I'm going to put a few more maggots in and cut down on the worm, and I think when they come on the worm, then I can start adding more worms in. But until that happens, I'm just going to cut down a little bit. Right, we had a couple of better fish and just had 2 casts without any indication. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to rest it for sort of 10 minutes and I'm going to have a chuck on my short line. And what that does, it lets me know have the fish come closer, because that's what happens. Sometimes you stop catching out because the fish have come closer onto your closer line. So I want to know whether that's happened, or basically it's going to rest the far line, and if I don't catch nothing on that short line, then I can go back out long and I've got it a little bit of a rest, like a 10-minute rest. So that's what you have to do, is just try and work them out. So it will feed me short line again, and it'll give me a chance to see if the fish have moved in, and rest the far line. Because one of the things you get, and lots of bream places I go on, you get indications to tell you that the fish have come in, but you never do here. It's the weirdest place for that. You just get no signs, no indication. You cast out and you'll get a bite. It's unbelievable. So I'm going to but I've changed my feeder this time. Instead of the bullet type, I'm just going for an open-ended feeder, and I'm going to put a few pinkies in, a little bit of worm. I'm going to do double maggot again, because that's what I've been catching my fish on. And like I said, I prefer when I can to use open-ended feeders, and that's what I'm going to do. So let's see what happens. I always think that this is an important time, because I think this line comes alive more in the last 2 hours, but you never know in fishing. And for the sake of 10 minutes, I'm willing to find out if they have come close, but also it might just give that little rest on far line. And it's amazing then that when you go back out, you get one first cast. Because one of the things I believe in, and it don't matter whether you're pole fishing, feeder fishing or waggler fishing, whatever, when you change to a line, like this cast now is my first cast, this is the most important cast. And then if I don't catch, and when I go out, back out, the first cast is the first cast from a change is the most important cast, because if you're going to catch one, that's when you're going to get it. And when I have the first cast on everything, when I change, it don't matter what type of fishing it is, I never ever do anything. I won't pick my flask up, I won't do any bait, I won't do anything, because I know how important the first cast after change is. It's amazing. If I don't get one first cast, I'm only going to have one. Oh, I had an indication then, look. I think that's a small fish, which tells me that there you go, look. Now we've got one, but it's a small skimmer, or I hope it's a skimmer, I think it is. But that's first cast on the shorter line, which tells you I'm going to have another one. But I never do anything on the first cast, and it don't matter what style of fishing I'm doing, because if you're going to catch a fish, that's when you're going to catch it. Now that's what I didn't want to see. Oh, it's a little hybrid. You don't want to see them when you're catching bream. But we'll have one more cast because I've caught a fish. So that's not a good sign. I don't want to be bitted out like that because I'm fishing for bream. I'm not fishing for them. And it happened pretty quick as well. So we'll have another one. And what I do if I start getting pestered with them, I'm straight off it. I don't want. That's the last thing I want, is them. You might think, oh, it's nice catching them 3 and 4 ounce fish. Well, you keep catching them, but you don't win out. But I don't want to catch them. So let's see what happens this cast. Look at that, look at that. There you go. Oh, little fish, look at these. It's a bream, or a skimmer. Thought it were a little fish that, but it's not. Ooh, shaking its head this. But it's gone to right. Well, I must admit I wasn't really expecting that at this stage, but that just goes to show you. It's a bream. Might not be the biggest bream it will, but I'll tell you what, that'll be £2 plus. There you go, look. Oh, it's a hybrid. Look at that. What a beautiful fish that is. Thought it were fighting a bit different. Look at that, £2 hybrid. You'd never get fed up of catching them. Look at them, Ben, eh? You think to that, mate? We haven't caught one of them for a while, innit? Look at that. They're beautiful. I'll show you that one. Oh, look at that. That's a proper one, that. We're a good bite as well. Look at that, eh? Look at that beautiful, eh? Beautiful, that. Eh? Look at that, Ben. So, by changing like that, now the fact it were an hybrid, sort of, I'm not convinced yet, but I've had £2 on it in no time. So I'm going to have another cast because I've not really wasted a lot of time yet, and I'm going to have another cast. But what I don't want to do, if I don't catch on this, I don't want to waste too long because I know my other line hasn't been fed, and I don't want to leave it more than 15 minutes because I don't want the fish to move somewhere else. But if I'm catching on this line, then you've just got to stick at it because this is the line they'll want to be on. Because like I said in my intro, one of the most important things is to find the line, the area where the feeding fish are, where they're actually feeding. Right, we got that hybrid, but obviously that's not a bream. And the fact it's not a bream, I don't want to leave it too long before I go back out, and otherwise people will draw my fish. So if it had been a bream, I would have spent much longer, but the fact it were an hybrid tells me it could be a little loner, which they do tend to do. So I'm going back long because I don't want to risk, if there is any fish out there, moving to the next man. So that's what you have to do. However, if it had gone round and I've had a bream, there's not a chance I would have moved off that line, because when they're moving, when the fish usually moving on here, that's the line you've got to stick at rest at match. When they start moving and feeding and coming in, and you start catching them, and that what you've got to do then is stick on it. Well, let's see now then, like I said to you, after the change, whatever line it is, the first cast is the most important, so I won't be doing anything. Oh, there's a diver just popped up where my feeder's going to land. There we go. Might catch that. Oh, it's gone, it's past it now. So this cast is really important now because it's the first cast after probably a 15-minute, because I caught that hybrid, probably get it another cast for a 15-minute break. So the first cast is the most important cast, and you don't do anything, because if you're going to catch one, it's going to go this time. Oh, dink straight away. Little dink, then straight away. Right, I've just had a couple of casts on my long line where I ain't caught, and I'm probably 3 hours into a match now, so I'm going to go back on my short line, because what happens on here, when they move in, you don't catch them on your far line. It's quite weird. When they move in, you just you've just got to come in with the fish. So let's see if they have moved in. I'm going to go in with a worm, because when they start feeding and they come in, this place is the weirdest place in the world. And when they move in, you just can't catch them long. And of course, it's a lot easier to catch them shorter. And usually when they move in, it's better. And it's better because when the fish move in, they're moving to feed. And that means they're usually easier to catch. So let's see. So I'm just going to I'm not going to put as many pinkers in, because last time around I got bitted out a bit. So I'm just going to put a few dead maggots in and a little blob of worm in my open feeder. 25 gram open feeder. And let's see what happens. Lovely that. Let's see what happens. And like I said, I keep repeating it, but it's really important. The first cast on a new line, you don't do anything. Make sure your line's sank. And let's see what happens. Yeah, it's quite weird on this place. You can fish 50, 30 and 15 all in a line like that, and your line will be going through them two lines, and you'll stop catching at 50. You won't get a sign, an indication. You'll pick your other rod up, cast it on your 30 and it'll go straight round. It's the weirdest place. It's that deep, but you don't get no signs, you don't get no liners to tell you they're there. It really is strange. Lots of places I go to bream fishing, when the fish come in, you get liners and indications on your tip, but at Southfield you don't. It's really strange. So that's why you have to pick the rod up and try it. And usually you can bet your bottom dollar, people that have caught the bigger weights, the 30s, certainly bigger 20s, 30s and 40s, they've probably caught the fish short in the last 2 hours. These fish now are short, stop catching long, come short. Look at that first chuck, a bream. When I say short, it's not proper short, it's like my 30-yard line, but it's a bream. But I'm not surprised. At Southfield, that's what happens. It's almost like a pattern. It's quite strange how it works, but it does do that. Look at that, it's a big one and all this. I'm going to get him up because I don't want to get snagged on there, because it's quite shallow here on these. When you come up Canal Bank here inside, it's really shallow. So you've got to get your rod up. Normally I like to play them quite low. Because it's shallow and there's an odd boulder. And sometimes your line gets wrapped round it, so you're better off with rod up. Look at that, it's a proper one that. Some lovely fish, these. So usually when they're moving, I probably won't pick the long rod up again now. Because when they move in, they're moving in to feed. Look at that. That's beautiful, isn't it? Does it get any better than that? Come in, my little beauty. Ooh, get in there. Beautiful fish. So, like I said, that was the first cast. The first cast. Lovely 4 pound bream. Look at that. Let's pick him up for you. I don't like picking them up so much, but that's interesting. Last three have all been at the same place, middle and bottom lip. Look at that. Beautiful. Might not be 4 pound, but it's certainly 3, 6, something like that. Right, we best have another cast on that short line because it looks like they've moved in. But that's typical of here. The fish move in, and when they move in, and one of the things I like to catch later on close is because when they move in to feed. And I think that's the most important thing for me. They've moved in to feed. Oh, I quite like the look of that one. And I got that on a worm. I got that on a worm and a dead maggot. Right, well that's worked certainly. All the fish are close now, and to be honest, we've had a lovely session. Probably must have 40 pounds, maybe more. Had some good ones, and quite weird really, because, well, not weird, I sort of expect it, but caught on maggots on the hook to start with, and in the end, it was when the fish moved in. On the long line, I caught better on the maggot, but on the short line, I caught better on the worm. But that's probably because they've come in to feed. I mean, look at that, it's another 3 pounder. Maybe bigger. Beautiful, aren't they? Yeah, so they've come in close now, and like I said, when they come in close, you don't normally have to move, you normally just fish that line now. I mean, look at them. Beautiful fish, aren't they? Beautiful fish, there you go. Might just be 3 pound, that one. And that's a lovely day's fishing. So, lovely day's fishing. Caught long to start with, short to finish off with, and it don't get any better than that.